Thanks for joining us for KSLA Café. I'm Adria Goins alongside Domonique, Benn, and today we're touching on the topic of breast cancer as well as the overwhelming costs in general when it comes to medical expenses. You know, this is October. It is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, so we really wanted to focus on that. We also wanted to focus on ways that if you're ever in a situation where you do have a critical illness, how you can afford it.
It is very expensive, Adria. Just talking to breast cancer survivors, you have to think about the loss of wages when they have to stay at home. They're going through chemotherapy, different effects of chemotherapy for everybody. If they have children, childcare, taking care of the household in general. So it's any cancer affects the whole family.
It definitely does. I mean, a lot of times you have to take weeks, if not months, maybe even years off.
Yeah.
And then you really have to figure out ways to supplement that income or that loss of income whenever you have a situation like that. You know, a lot of times your insurance will cover a portion of it, but they don't pay for it all.
Right.
And some people don't even have good enough insurance to really cover a good majority. And the overwhelming, I was reading a statistic this morning about critical illness when it comes to medical paying for that medical procedures and things like that. And it has increased over the past 10 years by 50%. The cost of caring for a chronic illness and a critical illness like that has increased by 50%.
You know, there's something like, you know, when we do our open enrollment every year in November, there's a part on there where you can get the supplemental for the critical illness or the accidental, you know, insurance. And, you know, I sit there and I contemplate, you know, but who can really tell you if you're going to get breast cancer? And so, you know, I pay that extra as a safeguard because, of course, that kind of helps get you through, you know, if you're going to be off, you know, 3 months and it supplements, you know, paying for medicine and things like that and lost wages. So, I mean, you don't ever want to think that. It's kind of like planning a will. You know, nobody ever wants to talk about it. Nobody ever wants to do it. That's the same thing for me. It was hard for me to even just like kind of check that because I felt like, oh, if I check that, that means, oh, something's going to happen. But in actuality, I've done it for the past 3 years. I feel better that if something did happen, I would be prepared. Right. So I do pay that extra on your on my health insurance, and people can check with their you know, their jobs and their insurance to see if that is offered.
Some people, some people, like you were saying, those don't even get that option, you know, and a lot of people that live in this area are not salaried employees, and so they don't really get a lot of really good health coverage. So that's another thing that really is a big concern. You know, when you're diagnosed with something like that, the first thing you don't really think of is, how am I going to pay for it? You think of, will I make it? Will I survive? What about my family?
Right.
And so to have those unnecessary
stressors,
yes,
it is, I'm sure it's stress.
It's so devastating to even think about that. We did bring in a breast cancer survivor with us to be here, Miss Dolores Edwards, who graciously stopped by in your pink to tell us a little bit more about, you know, just how it affects. We get a real human person to tell us how it affects you. First, I want to know a little bit about when you were diagnosed and just hearing that news, how it impacted you.
I was diagnosed in November 2007. I always do a breast exam, and I found the knot in the center of my chest, and to me it's like it was getting larger, and I was telling my niece, I said, I think it's getting bigger. She said, just checked it yesterday, it's the same. I said, no. So I called my doctor because I was concerned, and he immediately examined me and sent me to get ultrasounds. And I had about 7 doctors, some speaking English and some you could not, you know. But they did the ultrasounds, and not only was there one in the middle, there was another spot behind my breast that could not be seen. And they both was 25 centimeters. And it was kind of frightening because I had never experienced that before. No one in my family had ever had breast cancer. So when the biopsy came back, when he said it was breast cancer, I was like, for real? And he said, yeah. I say, wow.
So did both of them test positive for breast cancer, or just
No.
the first one?
Both.
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 Wow.
Wow.
So what stage did you catch it?
Stage 2.
Okay, because I was reading in some of the research I did before this that depending on the stage you are, the more expensive it's going to be because there's more significant amounts of treatment. You say you went through 6 weeks or six
treatments.
6 treatments. Can you
Or
tell us
chemo.
about those?
Chemo is it's kind of like an IV they hook up to you, and which I was blessed. They usually put a porta cap in you, but I was able to do mine in my hand, so I didn't have to go through another, what I say, unnecessary surgery to have a port in. So I was able to do mine in my hand. I did that for 6 weeks. And
How long was each session?
the first one, gosh, I guess the first one maybe about 2 hours, because it was the longest, because you had to go through all the procedures and make sure all the paperwork and everything is signed, all the T's, cross and all. And but after that, it was like about an hour, take about an hour. And they had the 2 bags that they put on you, and one little bag, which I would say was like a bad, like you put a bad perm on your hair and you leave it on too long, because it would burn. That's the one that takes your hair out. It burns real bad. It's like,
Where did it burn? At the side of the IV, or?
no, on your head,
Okay.
On your scalp.
on
Wow.
the scalp.
Felt like your hair was just tingling.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And that one was what I would call the booger bear. It was a bad one.
Yeah, and you said that you reached out to Susan G. Komen to get some hair wraps and things like that when you were losing your hair?
Yeah, they did. They had the little head wraps that they would provide for you. And they gave out a lot of information, a lot of handout materials, because, like I say, this was all new to my family, so we didn't know anything about breast cancer. And so we did, my niece, them, they did a lot of research online, and I got materials from Susan Komen. And kind of helped me, give me something to kind of look forward to see what was I going to be experiencing with the treatments. And I really was really shocked after the first one, my first treatment, because I was combing my hair that night, and my hair started coming out.
After the first treatment?
After the first treatment.
Wow.
I parted it, and I looked, and that was more upsetting to me than knowing that I had cancer, because when you're growing up, your grandparents always say your hair is your glory. And mine started coming out, and I just started freaking out, because that really bothered me. So I just got the scissors and cut as much as I could. But when I got up the next morning, all of it was gone.
Wow, after one treatment.
After one treatment.
My goodness.
Oh, wow.
When did you have surgery? Did you go through the chemo first? We know some people
No,
do the surgery first.
I had the surgery December the 7th.
Okay.
That was not long after your
No, it
diagnosis.
wasn't. No, they went quickly. It was like the next week.
Okay.
So the surgery was December the 7th. And after that, after I went back for my follow-up, then they scheduled me for my chemo.
Yeah. Now, you have been cancer-free
Yes.
for how many years
This
now?
is my 12th year.
Oh,
Wow,
Yes,
that
yes,
is so
yes.
incredible. That is amazing. I know you were saying that you would go every 6 months to get a checkup, and then every year, and now you're just
Let's go
you
once
go
a
once
year.
a year. That is amazing. We do want to ask you a little bit about as far as how difficult it was for you financially with, the first fear that you think of when you're diagnosed with something like this is, will I survive? My kids. But then when you start getting hit with the overall expense. So what was that like for you? What were your biggest concerns as far as how this was going to affect you financially?
Well, I'm going to tell you like this. I told my niece, which is like my daughter, and she was always there for me. I told her, you make sure my house note is paid. If nothing else get paid, make sure you pay my house note. But the Lord was with me and through my family and friends, because during that time I was working as a long-term sub. So there was no benefits. But the Lord just stepped in and just started touching people's heart, and they would just call me and say, how much was your light bill? How much your gas bill? How much your rent? Or they just say, this is to help you out till you get back to work. And I didn't worry about how nothing else was going to be paid. I just prayed and told the Lord it was in His hand, and whatever His will was, let it be done, and I would accept it. And He just opened the doors up for me, and people just started coming, offering help and support.
It's funny how that works out, isn't it? I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. You also reached out, though, to Medicaid and Medicare.
Yes, through LSU Hospital. They had the Medicare program there, and they signed me up. And that's how I was able to get my surgery paid for and my treatments. And they never did tell me how much my treatment was, but when I got my chemo on Fridays, I had to go back that following Monday to get my shot to keep my immune system up. And the shots itself was $1,500. And like I say again, thank God for the Medicare services that was able to assist me with everything.
Does it worry you? You know, I know that every time I go back for my mammogram, I'm always worried until I get the results. Are you worried when you go back yearly?
No, I really don't.
You won't let yourself.
No.
That's good.
I don't. I just go back. I go back every year and I get my mammogram.
And it's been clean for 12 years?
Everything's been clean for 12 years.
So
Everything.
you have had a mammogram, because you had a scare, right?
I did have a scare. Sydney is 5, and so a year before my daughter was born, you know, I was doing self-checks. I thought I felt something, so I immediately scheduled a mammogram. It's really, really scary because, you know, I go in for the mammogram, and then they call me, I get a letter.
Then you come back.
So, and it was just like suspicion, you know. So I see where the emotion comes from. With
just
you.
even talking about that.
So it says, you know, it's suspicious, and you need to get with your doctor. I had an ultrasound and I had a mammogram. And so I went in to see if I needed a biopsy, and they did another ultrasound in the doctor's office, and he said, I just don't think, let me call the radiologist. And it ended up, they thought maybe it was a lymph node. So it ended up not being cancer, and but they marked it suspicious because I had complained, and of course they don't want to send you away and say everything's okay, especially when they think you felt something. So I went back for a follow-up. They did more detailed, and it's been, you know, 7 years since then. And, you know, it was great that I had that so early. I had it way before 40. And so it established a baseline. And so every time I go back, whatever little spot they saw, if it was a lymph node, they know if it's there, okay, is it gone or has it grown? And it hasn't. And so, but I remember getting the letter and calling my mom and just crying. You know?
And that's why.
And I didn't have kids then. And so I thought, oh my goodness, I'm never going to have kids. We were just trying to plan a family. And then I just remember telling the doctor, you know, well, what if it's this and what if it's that, and I'm not going to have kids. And it was really emotional.
Oh, I can imagine.
And so I'm I need to learn to just go and know that it's a prevention when I go, and not be afraid. So I go every year, and and I couldn't go when I was pregnant with Chandler, so I had missed a year. So I was really scared by the time I had him when I went, because it had been over a year.
That's why it is important to have those mammograms every year, because they document what's going on, And, you know, if something looks a little different from the year before, then they can instantly get in there and make, and so that's why it's wonderful that, you know, I have not hit the age where I need to have a mandatory mammogram, but you suggest doing it early.
Well, this is the thing, even if you have not reached the age of 40, and you know, we have seen the guidelines from the different cancer associations that say do it at 40, do it at 35, no, do it at 50. So, you know, when we grew up, it was at 40. However, if there is something that just does not feel right, do not wait until 40, go. And, you know, it was paid for through my insurance because it was considered something suspicious. And if you're not insured or you don't have health insurance, don't let that stop you either, because you know, there are so many programs out there and so many services out there. You know, we have several things going on this month providing free mammograms to women and men. We know that men get breast cancer too. So definitely go get it checked out. One thing that I do, and I don't know if you had this, but I think I had the 3D mammogram, of course, back in the day when they were doing the regular, was it 2D or something? But I think one of the hospitals here has, you know, upgraded to the state of the art. And I did a story that compared the 2D and 3D, I believe, or maybe 3 and 4D, and it just showed the difference. It almost cuts the layers to where the radiologist can see it even more. So I always ask for the latest technology.
Yeah, my last one that I took last year was 3D. So they have at a Swaswara Cancer Center, they do the 3D there now.
Now, you did not have cancer that ran in your family, breast cancer.
No, I was the first one.
But now, is it a preventative, something you talk about within the women in your family
Yes,
to go through?
Breast exam is very important, and to get your mammogram.
What about,
very important.
You know, when you're diagnosed with breast cancer, a lot of people do the BRCA testing for the BRCA gene to see if that is going to be passed down to any other women that may be in your family. Did you have that testing?
We did that, and everything was good.
Yes. BRCA can also determine whether you are prone to ovarian cancer and other cancers as well. So
you know that I think it was Angelina Jolie who had a double mastectomy after realizing she had the BRCA gene, and a lot of people are going ahead and saying, I don't have breast cancer yet. But I'm going to take that measure to make sure that I never get it.
Renee Seiler, one of the former CBS Morning News anchors, her sister, I believe it was her sister or somebody in her family had breast cancer, and she did the same thing as Angelina Jolie. She said it was just really something she had to sit down and you know, decide whether she was just going to go ahead. She didn't have breast cancer, but she went ahead to have the double mastectomy.
Which I think is, honestly, if it were me, I would prefer living over waiting and wondering if eventually this disease would, you know, take over my body. So,
yeah, because when I went back for my results after my biopsy, the doctor said, I got good news and bad news. He said, which one you want first? I said, well, go and give me the bad news. He said, well, it's cancers. I said, well, okay, what do we need to do? He said, well, we have 1 or 2 things we can do. We can go in and dig the cancer out and hope that we get all of it, or we can remove the breast. I said, well, if this little apple is giving me problems, then it needs to go. So he said, well, that's what I was hoping you would say. So we had it removed, and they offered to do the surgery, to do a reconstruction. But I told them if I was younger, I would have. But I opt out, but they still tell me anytime I get ready to, they will do it. But
vanity kind of takes a back seat to that kind of stuff, right?
Absolutely.
And a lot of times people will say, you know, that sadly is something in the back of their minds when they get forced in that situation, like how am I going to look, what's it going to be like, you know, will I ever be able to wear a swimsuit again, or you know, a low-cut dress or anything like that. But at that point you just have to say you won't get to if you you know, if you get breast cancer.
And you know, we've come so far, you know, with the breast cancer research, and also with some people accepting it better. That, you know, I see the T-shirts that say these are fake. My real one's trying to kill me. So I love those T-shirts like that. I'm like, yes, you go, girl, you go.
I don't think I've ever seen that. That's genius.
One of my great friends, she was diagnosed, I believe she was in her 40s, and I believe she's 8 years cancer free, and she's gone through the reconstruction, and so she has that T-shirt. I think it's so cute.
So a couple of things we do want to mention to you guys. This is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, as we mentioned, and we do recommend that if you are of the age, even if you have any concerns, to consider getting tested, your mammogram. This is the perfect month to do that.
Yes.
And also, you know, and tell me, Miss Edwards, if this is right, and Adria, if you do it also, and I sometimes forget, I'm not gonna say I do this every month, but they say, you know, around, you know, a woman's cycle, they should probably be doing, that's the way to remember to do it, if you're just gonna do it every month, or if you can do it every day, I guess, but for people that may be like me, or just you kind of forget, you know, I mean, life is, you know, going 100 miles per hour.
To do.
Yeah, so, you know, just, you know, going in is there a particular way to do it? I guess I always raise my hand in the shower and do it, or lie on the bed, and they give the little pamphlet, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
What I do check my breast on the 4th of every month.
Okay.
Oh.
And because my birthday is December the 4th, so I choose the 4th.
Okay.
And the 4th of every month. And I usually lay down in the bed and examine my breast. And even now, I still examine on the 4th of every month.
Did you start putting like a timer or a note to remind yourself? Nowadays, you know, people have a calendar
And a
with
calendar.
a soccer
I have
practice.
to put everything on my calendar.
Yeah, I think that would be a great recommendation to people, because I'll be honest with you, I'm like you, Dom. I don't have a set day when I do any self-checks or anything like that. And sometimes I'll be like, oh, when's the last time I've done that?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll be in the shower and think, well, maybe I'll just do it right now, you know, or something, you know. So recommend putting a timer or something in your calendar in your phone.
You know, we have these great phones that have all these reminders. I have 10 reminders going off a day. So just put it on a certain day, or, you know, where it can go off, and then, you know, to do it at 6 a.m. in the morning, and when you're getting up. We know that a lot of people are watching via Facebook and social media, so please drop in the comments below. If you've been diagnosed with breast cancer, please share your story and your testimony and how you are a survivor, because we know that the research is done so much, and it's advancing every single day, it seems like. So give some encouragement to people that are also fighting the fight. And also, men are diagnosed too. We
quite frequently. We were running a story just the other day.
Knowles' father.
About how more and more men are noticing problems and getting checked, and just because you're a man, you are not inferior to breast cancer. So do your checks there as well. And before we let you go, Dolores, I do want to you know, mention you are active with Susan G. Komen. They do have the Race for the Cure, which I'm honored to MC again this weekend. Why is it so important to you to be part of this organization and share with other women who've been diagnosed with cancer?
Because Susan Komen, they have been there for me when I needed them. So whenever there's anything I can do to give back with them, I go and I volunteer. And I do, like we have a Pink Sunday at our church. And in the previous years, I have picked up materials from Susan Komen to give to my church. There have been different organizations that I have went and spoke to their women's group about breast cancer, and they was always freely about giving me handout and materials to take to them. So I just enjoy doing it because it's just a blessing to be here.
Now, you said you were packing up race kits and stuff.
Yes, I was there last week putting together the bags. And tomorrow I'll be there when they start picking the bags up. So I'll be there tomorrow passing out the bags.
Speaking of Susan G. Komen, Miss Edwards, you know you were sitting here with two of the winners for Dance for a Cure separate years. So, you know, we support breast cancer research, and
we definitely did. We raised quite a bit of money
yes,
for them. Domonique had an amazing dance with her husband. Got the chance to to put my dancing skills.
You did good.
Oh,
Yes,
I have
she
both
did
of you
great.
did.
I was like,
Both of
woo,
you.
go Adria.
I heard you
I was the
in
loudest one in
Yes,
there.
you were amazing. You were amazing. So we love and support anything that has to do with, you know, raising women up and helping raise money for a good cause.
Yes.
So we appreciate all you do.
Thank you so much, Ms.
Thank
Edwards.
you. Thank you
Also,
all for
a
having me.
reminder, there are so many different events that are providing free mammograms. We're going to try to get our producers to include that on the link. So if you need a mammogram and you don't have insurance, we will provide that link for you, because we still have a ways to go in October, and there are different events and mammogram manicures for and massages for mammograms.
Yep.
Not sure if that one's happened yet. I know we read it yesterday. So there are just so many that are happening to make sure that women and men get that mammogram if they need it.
I also do want to remind you guys, we did recently do a story on our Spending Smarter segment about alternatives to traditional health care. There's some new places that are popping up in the Arklatex called direct primary care, and what they do is basically cut out the insurance company and cut out that middleman, and these doctors offer, it's not necessarily concierge type medicine, but it's you text, you call, you email, you do whatever, and they're right there for you. It's a monthly fee is what they do. They also, some of them have a pharmacy within their clinic, so they can get you low-cost prescriptions. It's really neat. So some of you guys who might be facing chronic illnesses and want to consider your alternative options to save yourself some money, we've got that posted.
That's a really good idea. So you cover the story. Is there a copay? There's
No.
no copay. So you just pay that one monthly
Yeah.
fee, and you can go as
often as you want.
Wow.
You can go as often as you want. You can call your doctor as many times as you want. You don't have to have insurance. Like if you have insurance and you want to go this up, you can.
Oh, you can. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you don't have insurance, you can do this monthly fee as well. You know, so you've got two different options. It's available for everyone, but it's. I interviewed a woman by the name of Dr. Mandy Crow, and her monthly fee was $89 a month.
Wow.
And if
that's
you
great.
think about what you pay in insurance every month, you pay a whole heck of a lot more than that.
And then even when you go, you're still paying the copay, and sometimes you
Right.
have to pay when it comes back. If it didn't cover everything, trust me, I know.
Right? No surprises in your mail. You know, you don't get any surprises of any extra costs or anything like that. But she walks you through it all, and there's a lot of people, not just that doctor, but there's a lot of these popping up because this is becoming a more a new way of life when it comes to having direct or your primary care. So just something to consider, something to look up, and maybe if you guys out there have any questions about your health care, there might be a couple options.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again next week.